Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Dave from Gravity Wiz. I see that my title says CEO of Wizardry, not to be confused with a wizardry of being a CEO. But we have some good stuff to share today. A few highlights. Or first, let's start with a quick little just note that this is a recorded session. It will be available afterwards. We have a very special guest that's going to teach you how to make email marketing magical. You're really going to enjoy that presentation. We're also going to teach you how to put all of the magic our special guest teaches you to work with GP Email Validator. And of course, we'll have open QA at the end, as well as at a couple points throughout. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Hank Hoffmeyer of Kickbox fame. Hank, I love the digital marketing infotainer title. Nailed it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am the digital marketing infotainer. I like to make marketing fun and successful, but I'll let your audience determine that today. I've been in email marketing for about 15 years, but been in marketing probably for about 20 to 25 years, owning small businesses or doing it for other businesses. And I'm self-proclaimed workaholic because I love what I do. I love helping marketers, and then I love creating content all the time. Therefore, I don't hate what I do.
That's awesome. And I can already tell from the times that we've worked together so far that I think you're a hardcore workaholic.
Yeah, I know some people have other hobbies like gardening or biking, stuff like that. For me, when my workday ends, I like to create blog posts, videos. If you follow me on social media, you'll see I do a lot of video editing, and it's more or less just to learn how to do that, and then also put out content that's educational, inspirational, and informative.
That's awesome, man. So how did you get into email marketing?
I did a stint of about 12 years in staffing for corporate America, which is something you either loved it. You find out if you love it or hate it right away. And I did it for a long time. And I had a passion for technology, building computers and software way back when. And back in 2010, I reached out to one of my prospects who I was trying to sell into, which is iContact, an email marketing platform, and asked if they had any positions. And I made the transition over into email marketing, software as a service back then. And iContact and Kickbox are both owned by Ziff Davis, a larger company. About 2 years ago, I was asked to transition over from iContact to Kickbox, which I think was a great thing to do because I spent 13 years at iContact learning the ins and out of email marketing, the platforms, best practices. And now I'm on the side of email validation and email deliverability. And we have a small team at Kickbox, and it feels like a startup. It's just a great place to work.
That sounds awesome. It's funny. A little Gravity Wiz lore here. We had one wizard that came on board for 3 months, and then he told us that he was actually looking for something more corporate. And it stung a little bit. It stung. What keeps you engaged with email marketing? Why it seems like there's been a thread throughout your career around email. What has been like? What is the spirit of that thread?
I know I'm going to echo this later, but I feel like email marketing is the most powerful marketing channel because number one, you own your audience and it's portable. Try doing that with social media and getting banned. You lose all your followers. You can have somewhat of a quasi one-to-one relationship through the use of personalization, and it's affordable and has the best results. And I love talking about email marketing and helping companies really realize that they need to be using it or use it more or better. Some companies might be using it, they're a large company, but they're just not using it effectively. And then there's the folks that don't feel like email marketing is powerful enough because email marketing is dying, is what everybody keeps saying every year.
I've heard the rumors. Yeah. That's awesome. You kind of already answered my last question I had for you, which is why did you choose Kickbox? But would you like to speak to that anymore?
Well, at the time, I had a great leader that I worked for, and she managed both brands. And she saw that there was a need at Kickbox. Somebody was retiring. I was able to fill that role and more. That was more technical, doing auditing and financial analysis and scripting. And I guess, it was realized that I do a lot of marketing as well, and I help with support and sales. And it was just a no brainer to bring me over to join an already rock star team that was there. And we're just ready, for the last couple of years, and then moving forward, we're ready to take it to the next level and just help everyone out there have the best possible list to send to, make sure all of their emails are valid, and more importantly, they get into the inbox.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It honestly is a big reason that we chose Kickbox as well. Again, the API is just impeccably clean, so easy to integrate with. And the best part, especially for our customers, is that it's so affordable. It's one of the most affordable email validation services out there. For our audience, please do stay tuned for a 10x boost on your free credits in Hank's presentation. You're going to see a little QR code pop up. Make sure to scan that.
It's not a magic trick.
Yeah. And, as an added bonus, Hank, justifying why we chose you guys, it was after we've been working with you. It's just been such a good experience. I love, you reached out on Slack that time to help a shared customer, and we were able to get them a resolution, or at least an explanation for the issue they were experiencing pretty quickly, which is just awesome. I love when companies are able to work together like that to help the customer.
Yes, me too. And I'm glad we were able to get that resolved, and they're happy.
Awesome. All right. Well, Hank, the floor is yours. How do we make email marketing magical?
Awesome. All right. Yes, we're going to talk about email marketing, and I hope you find email marketing just as magical as I do. I'm not going to go through my introduction again, but important note, I have a weird rule. If you're going to connect with me on LinkedIn, make sure that you put into the connection request that you saw me here, and you may actually get a reply asking to have a call with you to get to know you. I do not accept blind invites, but hey, I'm a marketer. I'll reply to every blind invite and ask why you're trying to connect with me, and try to make sure there's going to be value on both sides. Sadly, because I love statistics, only 40% of people actually reply to my reply. There's that warning for LinkedIn, but you can follow me on social media. I have some of the greatest SEO for the term Hank Hoffmeyer, and take up about 3 to 5 pages of organic search on Google or wherever you're going to search. Just search for my name, find me on all the different channels. As I mentioned, I put out a lot of video content. As I mentioned, I have 15 years of experience directly working behind the scenes in email marketing. You may say that I probably learned every trick in the book, but email marketing is always changing. It's always evolving. And I remember starting at iContact way back when, and managing customers within a couple months of me starting. I was an expert. I knew everything. But again, to this day, I'm still learning, and there's a lot of changes. Some of what we're going to talk about today is actually quite new. And we talked about how affordable email is, and the ROI is roughly between $38 to $40 for every dollar you spend. It changes year to year, but it's still high. And we mentioned the other reasons of personalization, and your list is portable. With the banning of TikTok, well, we know it's back, but that scared everybody. They might have had 1 million followers. All of a sudden, they were gone because the platform was shut down. You should always be working to get people from your other channels back to your email program, so that you can start that personal relationship with them. I hope you're ready to pull back the curtain and learn a little bit about the magic of email marketing. But speaking about magic, I loved magic growing up. David Copperfield was one of my favorite magicians. Let me know if you have a favorite magician in the comments. I'd love to see if there's some I haven't thought of, because there's a lot out there, and I haven't been to a magic show in a while. But when it comes to magic, there's more than meets the eye. I've always been amazed at how do they do that? That is so amazing. Is that real? Did he really cut that woman in half? Well, TikTok kind of ruined it for me, because the music's going to be loud. I'm going to turn it down really quick, but you might want to plug your ears for a second. But TikTok kind of ruined magic for me, because there started to become all of these behind the scenes videos coming out about how things are going. I'm going to play the other one too, just to show you some of the things that are being shown here. as far as behind the scenes. Somebody's actually amazed me, like how they did it. The one on the left, like I never would have thought that's how they did that, like a tube on your hand to pull a handkerchief through. Then you got your card tricks. How do they do these things? Because they look so real with sleight of hand or whatever trick there is. And you'll notice we're only a quarter through the one on the right there. I don't want to bore you to death with magic tricks. Go to TikTok and just search for, magic tricks, how they're done or explained, and you'll have your fill of feed. And I'm warning you, you're going to start getting more and more in your feed. But moving forward, as marketers, we probably think it's simple to do. We're just going to create an email, we're going to send it, and we're going to measure our success, right? They're going to receive my email and they're just going to love it because I'm a great marketer. It's that easy, right? Well, it takes a little bit more than that, and it's a little bit more complex than a magic trick. But don't worry, we've got you covered on a couple different aspects today. The first thing is your email needs to get into the inbox. It's a fair assessment, right? People need to see your email to be able to engage with it. But there's a very important step that a lot of marketers gloss over. There's a missing link or an invisible link. They don't even know what it is. Do you know what it is? Take a guess in the comments. Is there something that's missing between, here it is, here's the key, obtaining a subscriber through a forum or wherever and sending an email? Is there anything that you need to do in between? I think we kind of even mentioned what that is in the intro and all that. Got to get you guys warmed up into the chat here. I don't see a lot of comments, but go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to give away the answer now. It's validating your emails. A lot of people collect email addresses and send to it. Yeah, drinking iced coffee. I need some more coffee after this webinar. But we collect email addresses and then we send to them. And so many marketers forget, hey, I need to make sure that email address is valid before I send to it, because they won't receive it. And it can actually hurt me. And we'll talk about how it's going to hurt you later on. Real-time validation is the best way and the most epic magic trick that you can do. If you have a form on your website, I encourage you to use validation if you're not currently using it. A lot of times people misspell their emails and they just type it wrong, and we don't think that they do, but they do. It's not like they're going to copy and paste it from somewhere to make sure they get it right. The hidden trick here when it comes to email validation is doing it in real time. And what you see here is kind of an example of what Gravity Wiz is going to do, and what Kickbox does is we can validate these email addresses in real time and also say, hey, did you mean Gmail instead of Gmail or Gmeil or something like that? It's a really powerful feature and a way to make sure that your customers are not fat fingering their email addresses, because I've done that before. No matter where you have sign up forms, whether it's a POS system, a CRM, you have your website, you're using WordPress, you should have a form, number one. Number two, you should be validating those email addresses. When you validate them, you get a response back. Is it a deliverable email address? I mean, it's valid. I can send to it. Is it unknown? Was there an issue with the server? We can't get the reply from the server. Maybe you need to try again later, or it's just simply not responding to us. Then there's undeliverable. We know it's a bad email address. Then there's risky emails, and risky would be a role email address, a disposable email address, and an accept all email address. First and foremost, there's those syntax issues and typos. We already mentioned those. Disposable email addresses, where you can spin up a temporary email address just to get a white paper or something and then never use that again. We highly recommend not sending to those. Then we have role email addresses. This is like admin at, info at, sales at. For the most part, we recommend not sending to those if you're a regular sender of emails. In other words, if I work at a company and I sign up for an email newsletter under marketing at xyz.com, then I leave the organization and somebody comes in and takes over that mailbox. They may not remember signing up for that email. And what will they do? They are going to mark the message as spam, unsubscribe, or maybe simply ignore your email. Then we have what's called an accept all domain. We'll ping the server and they'll say, yes, this is a valid email address, but then we identify that it's an accept all domain. In other words, they're saying, yeah, sure, send us email. We'll accept everything you send to us. But in fact, when you actually do an actual send from whatever platform you're using, it may bounce because that specific email address does not exist. the recipient server accepted the email, but they did not deliver it to the user's inbox. Hopefully that makes sense. And you may want to make decisions based on what type of industry you're in and what type of emails you're sending, whether or not you want to use these risky emails. This is a snapshot of what GravityWiz is going to do with their feature built with us with Kickbox. And it's a great option to integrate Kickbox into your WordPress in Gravity Forms and invoke the magic of Kickbox to make sure that you're covered and that you're getting valid email addresses. You're going to see a lot more about this and how to use it soon. I just wanted to give you a little preview here, a little tease. But for my next act, I want to talk about something very serious and very important. And I promise no cheesy tricks here. Who's heard of email authentication? Go ahead and say yes in the chat if you've heard of it, and no if you have not. This is interactive, folks, because based on what your replies are, I may or may not go more in depth in the next few slides, and then you'll learn more, or I could speed through them a little quickly, and we can go get those coffees that we were just talking about. All right, so some people are saying yes. So the way I have these slides laid out will probably make perfect sense, and it'll just reiterate to you to make sure you know what you're doing, and you might want to go back and check a few things. So I haven't seen any no's, but basically email authentication is a protocol that makes sure that there's no fraud, spoofing, or phishing going on with your domain and your emails that are sending out. And it sounds daunting, right? If somebody does not know about email authentication, this is very, very daunting, and it can be complex, but keep in mind, there's a lot of resources out there that can help you. The first item is, and these are things that you set up in your email campaigns as well as on your domain or your hosting provider. Say you had GoDaddy, you would log in or have your admin log in and make some changes on the host or your domain. The first one is SPF, Sender Policy Framework. What this does is it prevents other brands from spoofing you. In other words, if I use iContact sending from hankhoffmeyer.com, the recipient server is going to say, hey, I see this email is coming from iContact, not hankhoffmeyer.com. Does iContact have permission? And as you see that little blip down there, the SPF1 include, that is what you put on your domain or on your host, depending on how you're set up, to ensure emails go through. It wouldn't say Ionos there. It would say iContact or whatever they're specifying. Now, another cool thing is many providers now, including iContact, do this for you automatically. You don't need to set this up. But I would always check to make sure it's set up or set up correctly. Next one is DKIM, Domain Keys Identified Mail. This is like an extra layer of authentication. It's like an encryption key, stating that when I sent the email and it was received by the recipient server, nothing has been changed, altered, or no malware has been injected in that email. It goes above and beyond what SPF does. And same thing as you're going to log into your email provider or wherever you're sending emails from. They're going to give you information that you need to take, collect, and put in as text records or CNAMEs in your host provider, which, like I said, there's a lot of instructions, or your email service provider will tell you how to do this. Then you'll have DKIM set up. Then there's DMARC, Domain-Based Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. It's like saying supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It took me so long to memorize that and to say that without really making any mistakes. What this does is it combines SPF and DKIM. Again, it's a text record that you will put on your domain, and you notice there's an item there that says reject. This is something that's very important. What DMARC does is it says, hey, if we receive an email and it does not have SPF and DMARC, what should we do with this email? It's really what it's doing. And it also creates a log. If you have P equals none, it'll just simply let it through. P equals quarantine, quarantines it, lets you look at it. And then there's reject, is it simply rejects the email. I always recommend, if you're implementing this and you haven't done it yet, is start off with none, because it's pretty cool, because you could see anyone that may be spoofing your email address. Maybe there's some sender from a foreign country that's trying to steal data or information from your customers, and they're sending you emails that look like they're coming from you. you can see who's doing this. I also like to use it if you work for a big company, because you can see if there's other teams in your organization sending out emails with your domain. Hey, I didn't know the developers had a newsletter and they were sending out with our domain. You can figure all of that out. This is what reporting looks like. I hope you're really good at reading XML, because this is what the reporting looks like. Sure, you can format it, but let me teach you a magic trick here. You can use tools like Demarcian or Easy Demarc to make what you see now look like this. A lot prettier, a lot easier to digest, take a look at, and move forward. As I mentioned, you're going to start off with none, and then maybe you move to reject. And then you'll be secure, and you're going to meet the requirements of authentication. Here's a fun one. This one's optional. It's called BIMI, Brand Indicators for Message Identification. This allows you to stand out in the inbox. This allows you to provide a way for recipients to know who you are, see your branding, and trust you more in the inbox. Keep in mind, you need to have SPF, DMARC, and DKIM set up for this. And you need either a CMC or VMC certificate, probably around $1,200 to $1,500 per year, depending on which one you choose. I always recommend the CMC through DigiCert. That's probably the best option. And many major providers like Gmail, Yahoo, Fastmail, AOL, others, Apple Mail, they all support this. This is what it would look like. On the left is before BIMI, and on the right is after BIMI. I would rather have my logo show up than just a random, not a random letter, but whatever letter corresponds with your brand name. Hopefully you have BIMI set up. If not, maybe I encouraged you to do so. Okay, so for folks maybe that were afraid to say no in the chat, that they don't know about authentication, how do I check to see if I'm set up right? Aboutmy.email is a really cool tool. You'll send an email from your platform to an email address they give you, and it'll show you, hey, your SPF is not aligned. Your DKIM's good, your DMARC's okay. And on the left, you can also see that it'll check BIMI. And there's a lot of other cool tools. Aboutmy.email. Now, why is this important? Hank, I'm going to do this next year. I don't really care about authentication. Well, Yahoo, Microsoft, and Google are saying that you have to have this, or they will put your emails into spam, or maybe not deliver them at all. I like to call them either Micro Yahoogle or Yahoogle. Which one do you think's better or fun? I already got my choice. My choice is locked in. Micro Yahoogle or Yahoogle. And I know it might take you a minute to spell that out, and you might fat finger that as well. Maybe we need to have a validator in the chat. All right. Got some votes for Yahoogle. Well, you know what? That's my favorite too. Thank you for aligning with me. Yahoogle is also saying that you need to have something called a one-click unsubscribe. We're all familiar with the unsubscribe link at the bottom of an email. We've also received emails in Gmail or maybe others, and it says click to read more, right? For a long email. What happens when that email is truncated? It hides the unsubscribe link, right? And that's important. And what happened is these providers, Yahoogle is saying, we want it to be easier for people to unsubscribe. They're now requiring, and most providers do this for you already, that there be an unsubscribe link next to your sender name, which you see Vistaprint and then unsubscribe. If you need to, there's a manual way to add it to your headers right there. You just add it in and you'll be set for this one. Also, spam complaints matter. You need to keep your spam complaints at around 1 per 1,000 or 3 per 1,000. Lower the better. Now keep in mind, this is per recipient server you're sending to. So not Yahoogle, but 3 per 1,000 for Gmail, 3 per 1,000 from Microsoft. Keep your complaints low. I'd rather remove people or have them unsubscribe than I would want them to mark as spam. Because when we send emails, we have a sender reputation. And this is made up of your IP address as well as your domain reputation. Now, your domain, hankhoffmeyer.com, for example, has a heavier weight than the IP does, because most times you're using the IP of your provider, or you have a dedicated IP. If you have a dedicated IP, it's probably a little bit more heavier. But my domain, hankhoffmeyer.com, has a reputation. Oh no, I have a reputation. I like to think about it as like a credit score, because nothing matters if your email is not delivered at all. Maybe you collect email addresses, you verify them, then you send to them, and they're not making it to the inbox. That right there is a bad thing. So let's talk about this sender reputation. There are good or positive things that happen to an email when you send it. Then there's negative or bad things that happen to an email when we send. I like to play this game, and get your fingers ready for the chat. What are some positive things that happen to an email when you send them? I'm going to say it right away. Opens, right? Everybody's going to say opens. What else is something that's positive or good that happens to an email? And I don't have coffee, but I'm going to take a drink of water while I'm waiting. All right, we got clicks. Sure, clicks. Forwards, starring the email, marking it as important. Here's one that nobody gets. Write this one down or write it in your brain. TINS, T-I-N-S. That stands for this is not spam. In Gmail, especially if somebody goes into their spam folder and they mark the message as not spam, that is a very high form of engagement. I'm not saying I want your emails to go to the spam folder so people can mark it as not spam. But I just want to let you know that's one that people normally don't get. Let's go to the bad side, the negative side. What are some negative things that happen to an email when you send it? Of course, there's mark as spam. What else? Unsubscribe. Those are the big ones. In my numerous years, I'm not going to say how many, of speaking, especially from stage, when I ask this question, I think there was only one time somebody got one that I'm looking for here. Bounce, delete. Those are all negative. Everyone always forgets about when people ignore your emails, especially with Gmail. If I have 100 Gmail subscribers and 40, 50, 60% of those are ignoring my emails, you know what happens? That hurts my sender reputation. Gmail's going to say, nobody wants these emails from this sender. You know, you're irrelevant. Let's send more and more of these to the spam folder. And I always get the smart person in the room that says, well, Hank, people still receive and open my emails. Sure, those are people who have been engaged over time, but anybody new that gets added to your CRM, your platform, or whatever you're sending from, more than likely that email address is going to go to spam. Now, formulate your questions because we're getting ready to close up this magic show here. And if you have questions about deliverability, email in general, Dave and I will help you with those. But with that, I really enjoyed sharing my magic tricks with you. And I want you to go out and make sure you're implementing these best practices or checking them if you're already doing them. Seems like a lot of you are already doing the right things. But make sure you share this with your friends because everybody always wants to know how the magic happens. And with that, I want to offer you 1,000 free credits. Normally with Kickbox, you get 100 free credits when you sign up, but I want to give you 1,000. The offer will expire at the end of the year. I'm giving you plenty of time. Go ahead, sign up. Get those credits. This way you can take advantage of using the integration and validate email addresses in real time. And with that, Hank Hoffmeyer signing off from the magical stage. And I'm going to go back and put this up in case you need it again. And Dave, I welcome you back to the stage and I appreciate the opportunity of being here.
Awesome, man. That was so good. I actually had this thought while you were presenting. My dad always told me growing up that you don't understand something until you can explain it to somebody else. And I think it's safe to say that you understand email marketing.
I like to think I do, but I'm always learning and there's always new opportunities for improvements and doing things differently and better. And somebody said delete without opening, which, that is one I don't mention from the stage, but yeah, that is another one, deleting without opening, especially if they don't enable images, right? Which is another thing that people don't do sometimes. So sometimes I learn from the audience.
And so when that happens, so let's take that example, the delete without opening. Are you saying that actually impacts the reputation of the email? Like the email services are tracking that?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're saying that, they're not they're looking at they're not saying who's not because they don't have a signal. But if they're not, well, more importantly, let's talk about opens because they're kind of dead, right? I have an iPhone. I don't know if you have an iPhone, Dave, but some folks might have an iPhone. If you have the newer operating system, and let's say you use the built-in email client, but you're using Yahoo and Gmail, and you filter it into that email client. What Apple is doing is it's pre-opening that email. So I might send you an email, Dave, and I don't see your phone in your hand, right? Apple's going to open that even though you didn't touch your phone. It skews the numbers. I see that you opened, but you really didn't. What you want to look at now really is going to be clicks or click to opens, especially if you're doing list hygiene. There's so much we can cover if we needed to, right? But you should be cleaning your list of people who haven't engaged in an X amount of time because you have to remove that dead weight. Otherwise you will get punished. So cleaning your list so often is good, and use the metric of anybody who has not opened and clicked in 6 months or a year. Send them maybe a series of 1, 2, or 3 emails. Hey, are we breaking up? Question mark. That's always a great subject line, because if somebody's breaking up with me, I want to know why, right? Get them to open that email. We miss you. Was it something we said? Was it something we did? Try to get them back into the fold. Another quick tip is take that list and put it into Facebook or LinkedIn and use it as a custom audience, serve them ads to try to get them to come back. But yeah, keeping your list clean and healthy is always good. And they're not looking at who didn't open, but they're looking at who opened versus who you sent to, which they figure out who hasn't been engaged.
Yeah, we were actually a little slow on the draw with keeping our list sanitized. And a couple years back, we had to do the exact process that you're describing, where we kind of segmented out who was engaging, who wasn't, and then tried to re-engage the people that weren't engaging with, clever magic themed emails. I forget our awesome subject line, but I'm sure Cole came up with something brilliant. Any other questions for Hank before I teach everyone how to put all of the magic that Hank just shared with us to work with Email Validator and Gravity Forms? Oh, we do
saying if they don't engage, you unsubscribe them. Well, I would pat you on the back if you just go ahead and remove them. A lot of marketers don't do that, but it's probably the best thing to do, because you might have people that purchased a gift for someone if you're that type of sender, right? And then they might not ever come back. I would just remove them. The beauty is you can always add them back. Your forms can add them back. But if you're really worried about it, or if your boss is breathing down your neck, if you have one, just say, hey, let's do an automated series. Like I would set up, an email to go out that says, hey, are we breaking up? I'd wait 3 days or 5 days, and anybody who didn't open or click that first one, I would go ahead and send them the second one. Here's the divorce papers, right? Then you wait a week. Anyone who didn't engage with the first two, you say, hey, it's over, we're done. Then you use automation to actually remove them or delete them. And that also, oh God, just went out of my brain. Oh God, there was something I wanted to say about that too. But yeah, using automation for that, and making sure that you're looking at people that didn't open and click.
Nice. And we got one more for you, Hank.
I think what you're talking about is if you're using a provider that has what's called shared IPs. For the most part, they usually will do what's right to keep their IPs pristine or good. And they have the ability to shut down IPs that have an issue short time and then bring them back. But if you feel like you're using an ASP that doesn't have a lot of IPs, or their IPs are not good, you might want to change IPs. If you're sending millions of emails a month, you may want to definitely look at a dedicated IP somewhere. But the thing is, you'll need to manage that on your own, and you are in charge of that IP reputation. If you're a middle of the road or a small business sender, shared IPs are the way to go.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Hank. Hank will be coming back at the very end for any other questions that we have. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and take over, and I'm going to show everyone some really cool ways to do, again, everything that Hank just said about, validating the email with Email Validator in Gravity Forms. So first, before we get to Kickbox itself, let's just talk about Email Validator, what it can do out of the box. And with that, we have, it's designed to be plug and play. As soon as you install Email Validator, as soon as it's active, it will automatically start doing a basic validation service on all of your email fields for all forms. Now, what does that include? That's DNS validation, just to make sure that there is a valid MX record. It also will, actually, I can show you over here. It will also block disposable emails. This is a manual list that gets updated every so often. So if you're looking for something that needs to be, on it, like 100% on it, that's where I would go, again, to a premium service like Kickbox. It also has the option to block free email accounts. You'll notice that this is not enabled by default. This is like Yahoo, Gmail, etc. Hotmail, is that still around? And then this is one of my favorite default features. It has the ability to sanitize Gmail email addresses that use the plus trick. So I'm sure you've all seen the user plus tag at gmail.com. And this allows you to get the raw underlying email. This is a bit of a controversial option. It does remove some control from the user, But at the same time, it also, especially in situations where you need to make sure that you're only getting a single account from a given user, you don't want to let them just kind of keep adding essentially spam accounts by just adding that tag with a Gmail, the Gmail plus trick. This is a great way to do that. So I'm actually going to enable this. I'm gonna go ahead and save these settings, and we're going to hop over to a form here. This is my very simple email validator plus Kickbox. Again, we haven't introduced Kickbox to this form yet. You're going to love it when we do. But for now, we have an email field. If we scroll down under perks, you'll see that by default, I haven't changed anything. This is going to be enabled because email validator is enabled. Now, before I go any further, I want to make sure that it's clear. If you dislike that behavior, if you do not want it to be enabled on every field or every email field on every form by default, we do have a filter. You guys know we love filters. You just add this via a code snippet manager or to your functions.php file, and it will just disable it by default. So then you could come to each field that you want to enable it on and just click that little checkbox, and then that field will be sent through email validator. So let's see what this looks like on the front end. So we're going to test the no MX record first. So we have Dave at nomxrecord.com, and of course it blocks it. Now, by default with email validator, it shows a very generic message. This is deliberate. We don't want to give spammers any more information than they absolutely need because we don't want them to basically be get a leg up on trying to bypass any validation that's happening on your form. But you will notice here in the square brackets and with preface by only visible to form editors that the email domain does not have a valid MX record. So the information is available to you. It is not exposed by default. Now, if you want to show those details by default, we have this other filter, GPEV validation error message. And we just had Seth from the support team update this example today to show you exactly how you can show all of the details. So if you had this enabled and you came here, all you would see is this message right here, just spelling it out completely. And that is up to you. You know your users, you know your audience. If that's a safe option for you, it's going to be helpful. Please do use it. But again, just use with caution. So let's do a couple more examples of validation in place here. Go back to the form. We're going to put in this mail drop. Now, this is a disposable email. And you'll see there, again, it tells us, because we're the formatters, that it's disposable, and otherwise it blocks it. And then lastly, I'm going to show you the Gmail plus trick, how that works. So we'll go in here and we'll submit this, dave+trash@gmail.com. because I just wanted to sign up for this free service, but I didn't want to give them like a real email that I ever have to actually look at. And if we hop over to our entries, you're going to see that the email captured is just dave@gmail.com, not my actual email for the record. Please don't email this poor person who has a very popular email address. And you'll see here on the notes, it tells you that, hey, this is valid, and it will warn you or just kind of advise you that this was originally submitted as a plus address and that it has been sanitized down to the kind of raw email address. I don't know actually what the official terminology is for that. We'll have to ask Hank at the end. So moving on, next thing I want to demo was the domain validator. All right, so we'll just set these back to the default rules. Now, the domain validator is a bit of it's the same, part of the same plugin, but a different tool. It solves a bit of a unique issue that we've seen a lot from customers who just want to allow or block specific domains. So in this case, I've already set up, we're some sort of elitist site. We only want to accept harvard.edu emails. You have to have an email from Harvard to submit our form. So let's go to our form now. And first we're going to try, I had a girlfriend who went to CNU, Christopher Newport. I didn't go to college myself, so everyone will have to tell me what that was like. But you can see that is not allowed. Again, if they are a form administrator, they'll see the specific reason. This is definitely a valid use case where I think you would actually want to show the full message, because it would be very beneficial for them to see that, hey, this is why you can't submit it. But I also wanted to show you what happens if you submit the valid one. Behold, it works. Fancy that, right? So now let's hop over and look at the block list. So on the block list, we've completely changed our position about Harvard. We no longer are fans of Harvard. We want to prevent anyone at Harvard from submitting our form. And then also, because I don't know why Harvard and all Russian emails would be in the same boat, but for whatever reason, you don't want any emails from Russia. And this just demonstrates how you can use top-level domains and block them all. And I do see a question in the audience right now about, yeah, this is included. This is all standard functionality. You don't need any additional subscription to do this right now. This is just part of Email Validator. And so let's show that really quick. So now I'm going to try to submit my Harvard email again. Ah, dang it. Can't do it. And then we'll submit, dang, can't submit that either. And then finally, we'll just submit my actual email address. Feel free to send me some love. Ah, it went through. Perfect. All of our validation is working. Okay, so now that we've covered all of that, this is everything that is packaged in Email Validator without the addition of any other fees. Let's talk about Kickbox and how Kickbox can really take this up a whole level. So we're going to enable it. I've already entered in my test API key, and we're going to leave this in sandbox mode just for easier testing. So with Kickbox, one of the things that you're going to want to know is that they typically recommend not delivering or only blocking email from undeliverable addresses, and then accepting risky, and then making a judgment call after that. With that said, I've been talking to the Kickbox team, and they had an awesome suggestion about maybe making this a little bit more granular. Because if you see here, risky it could mean a lot of things, and depending on your use case, your risk assessment may be different. So they flag it like, hey, this probably should be reviewed, but there are some important subcategories underneath that. So for example, Hank talked about accept all domains, admin@gravitywiz.com or support@gravitywiz. Oh, excuse me, those are role addresses. But accept all domains are what Hank was telling you, where they will accept all emails. And then again, it may not be delivered. So you need to make that judgment call for yourself. Disposable emails. This is the one that both we and Kickbox recommend pretty much never delivering to. Hank, correct me on that if I'm wrong. And then lastly, the role addresses. That's what I was talking about with like admin@gravitywiz.com and support@gravitywiz.com. Now, you may want to use role-based addresses as an example. You may think that, hey, like that's okay. Our target audience loves to use admin@gravitywiz or, admin@theircompany.com. And so you would be leaving a lot of leads on the table to block those. So again, if that's something that would be interesting to you, we'd love feedback on whether or not you want to make this more granular, so that way you can block the subcategories specifically, or if you want to just leave it open-ended, so you could just block all risky emails if you wanted, or just allow them all and again, make manual assessments on your own. With that said, we are going to leave it enabled for now. And we are going to go and just save the settings. And I'm going to come back and talk about this other really cool option afterwards. So we are on the form. Nothing has changed. I'm going to go back to preview it. And I have a couple email addresses that are part of their sandbox API. So lowquality@example.com. We're going to submit this. Now, importantly, this is not going to be captured, or excuse me, this will be captured because we do not have risky emails blocked right now. And even though it's a low quality email, it's going to be flagged as risky. It will be captured. And you'll see here, I already have the email Kickbox result showing on my entry list view. And this is really cool because it lets you see at a glance which emails are good, which emails are like get the green seal of approval. So for example, actually, let's move some of our other emails to the trash really quick. And I'll go back and I'll submit my david@gravitywiz.com email. And when we refresh this page, you can see that this, again, that feels good, right? This is a deliverable email. You can send this email with confidence. This one, maybe not. I don't know. It's a little risky. Let's take a look at it. And you can see that we have all the technical details returned to us from Kickbox available to you right here. So you can see the exact result. It's risky. The reason, it's low quality. It's not a role address. Oh, it is a free email. Okay, so that's probably why it's risky. Is it disposable? No. Accept all? No. And then it even has this Syndex score, which kind of gives you a more maybe like a fine-tuned assessment of how risky it is. And so this is something that we'd also like to add support for in the future, essentially allowing you to maybe accept risky emails, but setting a threshold for your comfort level. Like, hey, we'll take anything at 0.6. I think it's a scale from 0 to 1. And we'll take anything at a 0.6, but anything below a 0.6, we just want to reject and provide a validation error. One more, and this is the role-based email. This is role@example.com. Again, we are accepting that. We're going to push that through, and you'll see here, okay, yeah, this is risky. Syndex score 0.7. But again, this is a role-based email. So that makes sense that it's a little higher than the low-quality email, which was 0.5. Again, the closer to 1, the better the email. And it tells you right here, like this, if there's any confusion about whether it is a role-based email or not, that is available in the technical details. One other cool thing I want to show you on this screen before we move on is that you can filter by the Kickbox result. So you can go in here to email Kickbox and you can say, hey, maybe you want to find only the deliverable emails and you want to use something like the ability to resend notifications here. We also have what is the other one? Notification scheduler might be useful in this context. So right here, we filtered there. We can also filter by risky. So let's search for risky. And there you go. We found both of our risky emails. And this might be a great option if you want to actually reach out to these folks and say like, hey, are you a real email address? Are you engaged? If not, then, trash it. You don't want that in your email list. Awesome. Okay. Last thing I'm going to show you. I know we're running a little long, but I suspect that everyone here is like, this is totally worth it. Email suggestions. So did you mean suggestions for misspelled emails? This is something that Hank teased in his presentation, and it is definitely one of my favorite features. So I'm going to capture this email. You'll see it's already enabled. I'm going to go back to my form here, and I'm going to type this in. And as I leave the field, it's going to immediately prompt me, did you mean? And I know that this is the same email, but it is the sandbox email. But if you click this, just imagine it's the correct email now. Then you click this and it will populate it into the field automatically. The user submits the form. Well, I guess that's not accepted. Domain does not exist because it is example.com. So that checks out, but you get the idea. It is pretty strong. Okay. I think that is pretty much it. I'm ready for some questions from the audience. All right, Elefante Music. Does Kickbox validate emails not submitted through Gravity Forms and WordPress? Hank, I will give you the floor.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'll put some questions in there. We'll answer those. We take comments and praises all day as well. We validate email addresses, whether it's through one at a time on our website. You could type it in your account. You can upload, files if you want CSV or Excel files. We have, APIs, which is what, this functionality is using. So if you are so excited and you go and sign up and start using this and you get your 1,000 free credits, but then you say, well, I already have, 5,000 contacts in my database already. Can I go back and validate them? Well, not right away, but yes, you can export them, import them into Kickbox, validate them, and put them back, depending on what categories you want. But yeah, you definitely can do that. And we also do deliverability consulting. So if you're having some of those domain and IP reputation issues, you could talk to one of our email marketing experts, and we'll get you back on the right track.
Leader Digital. If I activated this on a website now, would it process the existing entries or only new submissions moving forward?
Yeah, so just like I said, pretty much. Yeah, everything moving forward, but you could take what you have and you can validate it.
Yep. And as far as in the context of email validator, it does not go back to previous entries and validate them. And I saw Danny from Gravity had also asked if it could be, we have a plugin called FeedForge, which lets you reprocess feeds for existing entries. Email Validator is not a feed-based add-on, so it would not let you go back to those existing entries. But I did see Michaela from Kickbox.
You guys are wizards, right?
Yeah, she already knows. She already knows the level that we operate on. So this is definitely something that we'll certainly be looking at. All right, cool. I think we have a pre-submitted Q&A. All right, so Andreas from Norway asks, can you say something about how you and us using your service are GDPR compliant? How is data handled and where is it stored and processed? So first, I'll talk about Email Validator. Email Validator, it does send the email to whatever service you've registered, assuming that you are using Kickbox or Zero Bounce. If you're just using Email Validator, it does not do anything that would violate GDPR with your email address out of the box. With that said, just taking one step back to Gravity Forms itself, it is important with anytime you're using a form builder that you configure your form in a GDPR compliant way. Gravity Forms has some awesome resources available for that. Two things that come to mind right now: they have a consent field, so you can say exactly what they're consenting to with their data. And they also have a way to remove personal data if the user makes that request, and you just are responsible for implementing that mechanism for them to make that request. So again, GDPR is one of those things that it kind of, you have to interact with it a little bit. It's not like a plug and play, boom, everything's GDPR compliant. You need to understand to some level how it works. And Hank, could you speak to how Kickbox is GDPR compliant?
Yeah, we definitely follow GDPR rules to keep data safe and private. We only process data based on customer instructions and use strong security measures. We're actually excited. We'll have our SOC 2 attestation later this year. Also, we have servers based in US or EU, depending on your need, to keep those data mechanisms separate and in silos. So if you're in the EU and you need to store your data there, we have that opportunity. But yeah, we definitely make sure your data stays secure and we respect all privacy rights.
Awesome. Any other questions before we wrap this up? All right. And then Hank, in honor of our first workshop together, I'm going to give you the final word.
All right. Well, make sure that you know that email marketing is not dying. It's just evolving and it's changing, and it's a very powerful marketing channel. I see a lot of folks on here are definitely very knowledgeable about email marketing, but let's continue to learn together, work together, and make sure that, as marketers, we support one another with all these algorithms and, email and IP reputations. Make sure you're opening emails from brands you like and engaging with them to support them in the inbox.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Hank. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.